Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the fascinating real neuroscience behind hypnotherapy. If you've ever found yourself wondering what is actually happening inside the human mind during hypnosis, way beyond the parlor tricks and the stage shows, well, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to look at the hard science, map out the actual brain networks involved, and discover exactly how our minds process suggestion.
But first, we've got to address the elephant in the room. Does hypnosis really turn your brain off? I mean, we've all seen the pop culture trope, right? The mind-controlled zombie, the swinging pocket watch, this whole idea that someone else is somehow taking over your subconscious while your critical thinking just powers down. Well, get ready for a major paradigm shift because modern neuroscience tells us a completely different and, frankly, much more incredible story.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The hypnotic brain myth. 2. Meet the brain networks. 3. The neuroscience of suggestion. 4. Hypnotherapy in practice. And finally, 5. The active participant.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the hypnotic brain myth, rethinking the trance.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that to truly understand what hypnosis is, we actually first have to unlearn what we think it is. In hypnotherapy circles, you'll hear this phrase a lot, bypassing the critical factor. And honestly, it's a great therapeutic metaphor for just getting out of your own way. But neurobiology tells us a very different story. Scientifically speaking, there is literally no neurological gatekeeper or single septal center in your brain that just gets switched off. The hard evidence from fMRI and EEG scans shows us that hypnosis doesn't shut down parts of your brain at all. Instead, it alters how different networks communicate with one another.
Moving right along to Section 2, Meet the Brain Networks, the cast of characters.
Modern neuroscience increasingly looks at the brain not as a collection of isolated modules just doing their own thing, but as a highly interconnected system of interacting networks. Basically, think of the brain like a massive, highly interconnected symphony. And the first major player in this orchestra is the default mode network, or DMN. It handles our internally directed cognition, so things like self-referential thinking, imagining the future, and mind-wandering. But it is vital to know that the DMN isn't just some static, internal thinking network that simply powers down when we focus on something else. Actually, its activity is constantly shifting based on exactly what you're doing and thinking. Next up, we have the Executive Control Network, or the ECN. You can think of this one as your cognitive conductor. It is in charge of your working memory, decision-making, and goal-directed behavior. And this network is absolutely crucial for hypnosis because hypnotic suggestions usually require you to maintain a really steady attention on a specific idea, an image, a sensation, or a goal. And our third key player is the Salience Network. Think of this network as the ultimate coordinator. It's what helps your brain detect and prioritize information that is emotionally or behaviorally important. During hypnosis, your salience network actually shifts your attentional priorities. It's the whole reason why a person's attention might become so intensely focused on a therapist's voice or a specific mental image, while literally all the other background information just fades away and becomes less prominent. Okay, so here is the incredible takeaway. The brain doesn't just toggle these networks on and off like light switches. Hypnosis actually changes the balance and the normal pattern of communication between the default mode, executive control, and salience networks. So you remain entirely focused on a goal while simultaneously experiencing these incredibly vivid, internally generated images.
Okay, let's dive into this next part. Section 3, the neuroscience of suggestion, how it actually works. So, we know the networks, but how do they actually create the hypnotic experience? Well, research gives us a core, progressive sequence for how this all goes down. It starts with an induction, which leads to focused attention. Then comes the suggestion, which leads to an altered interpretation, expectation, perception, or response. It is a highly selective attention that naturally allows the brain to construct a totally new experience or a new perception of reality. You aren't disconnected from your environment. Rather, your attentional priorities have simply changed.
But here's a really fascinating nuance. There is no single universal hypnotic brain state because everyone's neural connectivity is completely unique. It's just like a fingerprint. Responses are going to vary. People with higher hypnotizability might show slight differences in functional connectivity compared to others, and that allows them to experience a greater range and intensity of responses. But whether your natural hypnotizability is high or low, you can still absolutely benefit from the process.
Let's bring this into the real world with Section 4, Hypnotherapy in Practice, Real-World Impact.
So why does all this complex neuroscience actually matter to your daily life? Well, hypnotherapy has some incredible evidence-based versatility. We're looking at practical applications ranging from anxiety reduction and pain management to changing deeply ingrained habits and even building self-esteem and confidence. Let's break down exactly how the brain facilitates a few of these.
When it comes to anxiety, hypnotherapy really leverages that intense, focused attention we talked about earlier. By narrowing focus and altering how emotionally salient information is processed, it actively helps quiet those exhausting, repetitive, self-focused thoughts. It essentially changes what receives your attention, which in turn naturally lowers your physiological arousal to create a much calmer state.
Now, pain management is where the neuroscience gets really wild. A meta-analysis of 85 controlled trials showed significant effects of hypnosis on pain relief. How does that work? Well, because pain isn't just a physical signal, it heavily involves emotional and cognitive processing. Hypnosis can alter activity in regions like the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula. To put that into perspective, it means a person might still actually receive the physical sensory signal of a touch or an injury, but they experience significantly less distress and unpleasantness. It's a real game changer.
And for changing habits, let's completely demystify the process. It is absolutely not brainwashing, so don't worry, nobody is secretly programming you to cluck like a chicken. Instead, it's actually a form of intensive behavioral rehearsal. The client mentally rehearses a new, desired response to a familiar old trigger. You are safely practicing a new, future behavior by influencing attention, imagery, and motivation.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, the active participant. You are in control.
So, the crucial point is, I want to directly address any lingering fears you might have about losing control during hypnosis. The neuroscience firmly supports one crucial reality. You, the client, are an active collaborator. Your attention matters, your expectations literally shape the entire experience. Your imagery is incredibly powerful because imagining an event recruits many of the exact same cognitive systems as actually experiencing it. The therapist doesn't hijack your brain. Your goals, your expectations, and your imagination are the true engines of change here.
We're going to leave you with this provocative thought. The brain is not some rigid machine. It is a highly interconnected, flexible symphony. So if your brain networks are this flexible and can completely reorganize how information is attended to and integrated, what could you achieve by simply changing your attention? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible potential of your own mind.